In this video, we're going to be looking at how to knit the beautiful Kihnu Vits or Kihnu Braid in the round with a modern jogless join. This beautiful braid, named after the island it originates from in Estonia called Kihnu, is a great little bit of embellishment to add to any project, or I use in quite a few of my patterns, like from this swatch. This is for the Virvendus sweater, and this is for the Kihnu sock. This braid traditionally has never had a jogless join. That's very much a modern knitting style. It has always been knit in the round, but those jogs, which I will find on my swatch here, you'll notice they you can tell it's slightly off kilter. Those traditionally have always been hidden on the inside of a sock, sleeve, or hem on the body of a sweater. But with modern knitting, I've adapted. It's the same method for this traditional braid, but we do something slightly different at the end of each of the rounds that we're going to be working this braid to bring in a somewhat jogless join to this braid, taking a little bit from striped knitting. So let's get started. So now we're going to get started knitting our Kihnu Vits or Kihnu Braid jogless style, doing this continental style. To start off this braid, we're going to be alternating our colors to the last stitch. This follows the same method as shown in my previous tutorial video on the Kihnu Vits or Kihnu Braid. You can knit alternating colors in whatever method or style you like to do stranded color work or fair isle. I like to knit working the colors holding it in both hands. You can do this in one hand in your preferred style. So I'm just going to knit alternating my colors. So I'm going to knit one pink, one green, all the way around to the last two stitches. This is something you need to make sure you have an even number of stitches on whatever project you are working on. Now, when I get to the last two stitches, I'm going to knit keeping my alternating colors. So for me, it's pink, green, pink, green. So I have a green stitch here, so I'm going to do the next one pink. And we're going to work our last stitch of our round twice in the same color. So keeping my alternating colors, I'm going to knit this stitch in green, like so. Now I'm going to slide this last stitch back to my left needle, just slide it back purlwise, like so, and I'm going to knit it again in the same color, like that. So all of my stitches all the way around keep an alternating color scheme, so kind of like a checkerboard. But the last stitch of my round has been knit twice in the same colors. So it means that stitch is going to sit just a little bit higher up than the rest. After we've done this round, we're going to do the second round, the second part of this braid, which is the twisting round. So now we're going to do round two, which is the twisting round, where we're going to start to see our braid. With knitted braids, they're usually made up of a twisted float. So if you've done stranded color work, you'll know from floats that are usually hidden on the wrong side of your knitting. In this case, we want floats on the right side of our knitting. So we're going to be keeping both yarns, both colors, to the front the entire round that we're going to be doing. And in this round, we are going to be purling. So both yarns stay to the front, and as we're doing this Continental, I'm holding both colors together in my left hand. Now, we're going to be purling in the opposite color to what my stitch is on the needle. So if I have a pink stitch, I'm going to be purling it with the green yarn, and with my green stitches, I'm going to be purling them with the pink. Now, I'm going to hold my yarns in such a way that I'm going to make a twist. So they're going to be twisting over each other. So if I have a pink, I want the color, the opposite color, which I'm going to use to purl, to be the furthest away from my fingertip or my needle tip. So it should be the furthest to the left, so furthest away, and the matching color closest to the fingertip and the needle tip, pink. So I'm going to insert my needle going in purl to purl, grab my yarn, and you'll notice it's going to cross over top my other color, and I'm going to bring that to purl through and slide off. First stitch of the round is always a little bit fiddly. Now, again, we're keeping our yarns to the front the whole round. I'm going to readjust, so push the twist. You're going to get twisted yarn with this because we are twisting to make our braid. I'm going to switch the color position in my left hand for my next stitch. So my next stitch is a green stitch. I want to purl the pink, so it should be the furthest away, furthest to the left. So when I pick it up, it's crossing over my green, pull it in to purl. Readjust our color placement. Keep both yarns to the front. Purl in the opposite color, which should be the furthest away, to the left. Go into that stitch, pick up your yarn. It's going to cross over top the other, pull through to purl. Readjust. After I do this stitch, we can have a look at what's happening on the right needle. So go in purlwise, making sure you're grabbing the opposite color to the stitch, which should be the furthest away from the needle tips, furthest to the left, and pull through. So what you should see on the right needle, once you get a little bit further through, is the start of your braid. So the bottom part of what's that little V is made of floats, which we are actually making by twisting our yarn, and the top is the purl bump from the first round of our knitting when we were knitting alternating colors. So we're going to carry on in that fashion all the way to the end of the round, actually to the last stitch. The last stitch is going to be worked slightly differently. So just keep purling in your alternating colors, making sure you're grabbing that yarn and pulling it across the other color. So this is repeating in pairs, so pink, green, pink, green. So I'm going to do that to the last two stitches. And just remember to readjust and keep your yarns held to the front the whole round. So once I've gotten to the last two stitches of my round, now we're gonna start adding in a little bit something extra to what the regular Kihnu Vits is. I'm just gonna work the second to last stitch in the method that I've been doing so far. So I'm just going to purl it, making sure I have my yarn placed on my index finger correctly. I'm gonna just purl it in the opposite color, making sure that color is coming over top the other, having it positioned furthest away from my fingertip and the needle tips. Purl that through. Now it's really the last stitch of this round that we're going to do something a little bit extra with. So before we do anything purling wise, we're going to pick up an extra stitch. So you'll recall that in the first round of our braid, we actually knitted this last stitch twice in the same color. So what I'm going to do is with my right hand needle, what you want to do is find the stitch below the loop that's on your needle. So I've got this loop, so a live stitch, and I want to come and find the one below. So it'll be in the same color as what is on my needle. So with my right needle, I've just kind of gone in, found it kind of purlwise, and I'm going to just slide that on. So what you should now have is 2 stitches from one stitch there, 2 stitches, and they should be in the same color. So you'll see they're both green. Now, with those 2 stitches, I'm going to place my yarns, my contrast colors. I'm going to put them back ready to do some purling and twisting. And I'm going to purl these 2 stitches together in my green. So 2 green stitches, I'm going to purl those 2 together. So I'm back to the same stitch count I started with the opposite color, bringing that color over top the other. So again, I've got my yarns placed ready to go. So I'm going to purl out with the opposite color pink. It's furthest away to the left, away from my fingertip and needle point tips, and I'm going to pull that yarn through both stitches in that color, like so. And that's what's going to end my braid round. And by working that last stitch twice and then picking up that stitch and pulling it together, it's going to bring my braid more in alignment. So I'm just going to knit a couple of rounds so you can have a better look. So I've just knit a little bit more above so you can see the join. So it's never going to be absolutely perfect. This is a bit more of a modern take on this, but my braid sits pretty even, so that stripe isn't kind of slanting different directions. So just by treating that last stitch of the round for the first round and the second round just a little bit differently, we've kind of raised it up and kind of brought it in line, makes a nice kind of more seamless join for our very cute Kihnu Vits or Kihnu Braid.